Meeting to order. Would everybody please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is everybody tuned in all right? Everybody can hear? Any problems? No?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The notification for the public notification has been posted. We have the minutes from March 1st to review. Are there any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes of March 1? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 1?
So moved.
Who's that, Jason? Is that Jason? Okay. And do I have a second?
I'm sorry, I'll second.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
Cecily will second.
All right, thank you, Cecily. All those in favor, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, no opposed. All right. We have an agenda. We have one major item on the agenda. Does anybody wish to add anything to the agenda? Okay. Hearing nothing for additions to the agenda, I'm going to go to citizen comments on anything pertaining, and that doesn't pertain to the issue tonight. Any comments to be offered up? Anybody would like to speak to the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, this is Tony Crisatello. I wish to speak to the Planning Commission.
All right, Tony, you're on. Go forward.
Thank you very much for the time to speak to you. I'm asking a question of the Planning Commission and the planning staff in regard to amendments to the comprehensive plan. Are we entertaining questions of amendment to the comprehensive plan at this time? I've written 2 letters to the county planning staff requesting an opportunity to amend the comprehensive plan, and I have received no comment back from the staff. I'm asking whether or not we are, in fact, allowing citizens to amend the comprehensive plan at this time.
I'll jump in on that, and then Rob, you add to it based on what you and I have discussed. Tonight, we're basically giving just kind of an introduction overview of the comprehensive plan. It is not in its digital print form yet, and when it does become available, we will be planning on workshops, public workshops, that will allow the commissioners and the public to provide any inputs on that document. And at that time, we will take suggested amendments, suggestions going forward. Is that about it, Rob?
Yes, I just wanted to add that the plan is online, and we will later in the meeting announce the website and link so that the public can view the plan. And we're going to put out a press release later this week so that the public knows that they have an opportunity to read and comment.
Okay.
So if I might ask the question, how long will this process take?
Well, let me, if you'll hold your question on that, after we have the general overview, we're going to be talking about the process going forward and what the anticipated activities and timeline for that will be. So that is part of the agenda discussion that we'll be getting into after we've heard the opening review of the comprehensive plan.
Has the county council enacted a pending ordinance doctrine in regard to the comprehensive plan?
Tony, I can't answer that question at this time. I would request that you leave any further questions until we introduce the process, and then we'll entertain as best we can an answer.
Yeah, I will say that we have not enacted a pending ordinance for the comprehensive plan.
If you have not enacted a pending ordinance, then it seems to me that a request for an amendment to the comprehensive plan by a citizen is in order. And when I requested a pre-application conference and heard nothing back after 2 letters requesting a pre-application conference, I would presume that pending ordinance is being pursued. Otherwise, why have I had not heard anything?
Rob, unless you feel otherwise, I'd like to defer any further discussion or dialogue with Mr. Cristatello on this. If you are able to answer his questions in your review process, that would be appropriate. If not, I'm sure that offline you will be able to discuss that with Mr. Cristatello.
Okay.
My only thought, Ed, is this: if the desire that I have expressed previously to the Planning Commission and to the staff about Bindon Plantation is not incorporated or at least discussed, and then we would say, oh, we will take it up in the 5-year review, yours truly may be dead in 5 years. Okay? So it seems to me that it's the only opportunity for my request to receive due consideration by the Planning Commission is through the normal amendment process, and without knowing when the comprehensive plan will be adopted. It may be 9 months from now. The typical process of amendment usually runs about 4 months.
Yeah.
So,
Tony, we'll note. We know your comments are noted. We will undertake the review and update you just as soon as we had a chance to take an initial look at the overview of the plan. We will address your concerns. All right, let's move forward. Will you allow us to move forward at this point? I would like to move on to that issue, a discussion by Glenn Walters, who is the design workshop consultant, to give us an overview and then a discussion on the process going forward for a review workshop and ultimately submission and approval by the county. Glenn?
Thank you, Ed. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it'll work. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. Can you see my screen now and see the website that says project background on it?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is the website that we have been using throughout the process. It's the place where the community has come to offer their comments, to take the surveys, and to participate with us through this rather interesting time this last year. Believe it or not, it's really effectively it's just been a little bit over a year since we've gotten started on this. And I think Rob turned us loose just after the new year. We were able to get one community meeting done before COVID really hit. And then the rest of the time we've been doing things virtually and have learned quite a bit about conducting virtual community engagement. Within that time as well, we were asked to do the green print plan and completed that plan and shared that with you all a few weeks ago, if you recall. So we had 2 efforts going on, and both of them, I believe, to work together to really accommodate, express, and sort of lay out the vision that the community has talked about within this process, or for the comprehensive plan for 2040. So what we did with the comprehensive plan, we set out with the planning department to think a little bit differently about the structure of the plan. Many times, comprehensive plans spend a long time talking about the existing conditions, which is important, but it's hard to find the information that will keep you motivated to keep reading it. And so we organized the document into three pieces. If you think about it, the green print plan's kind of a fourth piece, but we've got the document itself, the 2040 comprehensive plan itself, which can be accessed through this link, which includes the vision. It includes a description of the community process. It includes the delineation of several themes that are able to capture things a little bit more synergistically than putting a plan together in terms of the required elements, although the required elements are accommodated. And it also is organized around three overriding concepts, which is resilience, equity, and unique to place. And so let me just give you the overview of each document first, and then I can thumb through each one and show you what it's all about. The next document is what we call the Action Plan Playbook, and it takes and organizes the priority actions that have come out of the comprehensive plan process. It's those things that are going to be committed to getting done over the next 10, 20 years, and puts them into a matrix so that accountability is created, so that a name or a department gets put next to that task, and there is some description of when a task needs to be accomplished by, and then a check off in terms of whether or not it has actually been accomplished. So a little bit more clarity brought to the action and implementation component within this plan than maybe the previous plan. And then the final document is what we call the Atlas. And one of the things that we understood really going into this thing is that many times planning documents over and over and over again say basically the same things for many, many pages, and that includes all that existing conditions information. And so the idea was, can we create an atlas that is updatable, that's a living document, but has those data-oriented things, has those statistical-oriented things in it, so that it can be updated, it can be used for other planning efforts, that other planning efforts can refer to it rather than duplicating that information over and over and over again every time a new effort gets started. So that was kind of a structural change idea for how the county might consider creating efficiencies within future processes. So with that, I'm going to open up the comp plan and share that a little bit with you. It's let me go back to single view. I got it. We're really, I don't know if anybody has seen it, but it's a fairly typical structure. We've got acknowledgments at the beginning. We've got a table of contents that talk about the different themes that we have built the plan around. We do an introduction where we talk about the importance of this plan for the county, and we discuss those issues of resilience, equity, and place. We've really learned from the community, and the reality is there that the time is now to think about resilience from major storm events, economic resilience related to broadening the economy and making it more sustainable and multi-generational, thinking about infrastructure, and then thinking about that harmony between the built and natural environment and securing within the plan the mechanisms that can help lead to that. So we spend some time talking about that. The introduction includes what the required elements are, what the goals of the plan are, how to use the document, and how it links to other documents that are part of this package, as well as other documents that relate to it, such as long-range transportation plans and park and rec plans and those sorts of things. So we really want to express the interrelatedness of these documents and the importance that they all flow together and start to say the same things. Here we touch on this idea of resilient, equitable, and unique to place, and that each of the chapters, as we get to them, delineate strategies within those three major concepts. We've captured the community engagement process, which we felt was as robust as we could make it given the circumstances. We were able to have a meeting at the beginning with no masks, and we had a meeting at the end with masks. But in between, we had quite a lot of good participation through our video conferencing, our video presentations. And I know that everybody, the county and us included, worked really hard to get as much a broad of an input as we possibly could onto this plan. So then the next chapter goes into the different themes, and I'll just walk you through what a typical chapter looks like rather than going through all the chapters. But this one is natural environment. So we have a statement about that, almost like a mini vision within natural environment. We have core values. And then ultimately, once this thing gets reviewed and put back together again, we will have links within each chapter to other documents that are sensible to also consider or are relevant to the comprehensive plan. Each chapter has a context where we establish, based on existing conditions, kind of what the lay of the land is within each of those themes. So this context relates to natural environment. And then we get into the strategies and actions. And we've worked really hard back and forth with the planning department to, listen to the community process, to think about those things that were still relevant from the previous plans, and then also to create the critical links between this plan and the plans that the Sea Level Rise Task Force have been working towards, the plans that the folks that were working on Bike Ped are working towards, and then, like I mentioned before, to the Green Print plan. So each theme has a set of strategies. This boxed number next to that strategy talks about its association with either resilience or equity or place. And then we've articulated specific actions that the county can commit to within each of those strategies, and broken those down into some detail so that the work can actually get done. So this is what a chapter looks like. We go through culture in the same way, using a lot of really great GIS-based maps that we worked with the GIS department on gathering the background information for. You can see we're scrolling through here. We've got a spotlight on St. Helena with that talks about the importance of that place and specific strategies and actions related to it. We talk about economy with strategies and actions too. We talk about mobility and the need for multimodal, the need to think creatively about how to handle growing traffic concerns, how to expand upon the benefits of things like the Spanish Moss Trail, how to promote even more walkability and bikeability, as well as upgrading airports. We get into housing. I love the picture of the house in the water there. And have mapping that talks about population densities and income distribution and poverty and those things. We talk about community facilities, which includes parks and schools and libraries and those things. And we've mapped accessibility to existing facilities and have also mapped it relative to social vulnerability so that it provides clues as to where new facilities might best be located to help accomplish equity or the equitable distribution of these facilities to all citizens. We did that with healthcare, EMS, police, parks relative to population density, parks relative to social vulnerability, parks relative to driving distances. We get into built environment, and here's where it gets really fun. We if those of you that tracked along with our process, we had a great set of discussions around growth and the realities of growth, and that part of the plan that the comp plan as well as the green print plan went through a process to really try to understand the available land and the available land relative to natural environmental conditions and what lands would be most suitable to accommodate that growth. And that was a pretty intense exercise into the natural systems to try to understand the amount of land that would be categorized as suitable, how many acres or square miles that is, what that means in terms of accommodating projected population demands and those sorts of things. So we really dug in to understand the realities of growth. We understood that a lot of inventory was remaining in PUDs. We understood that there was land within rural areas that support some population. And we were able then to really feel comfortable that the county can continue to have this harmony between the built environment and the natural environment, and that by focusing developments appropriately within different environmental conditions, say the upland land areas that are less critical from an environmental standpoint, that the population growth can be accommodated and be done so in a very environmentally friendly way that preserves and protects those critical environments over the long term and keeps people out of harm's way from major flooding events. We talked in terms of concentrated growth corridors and planning very long term for meaningful transit connections. We have other strategies to talk about growth management related to transfer development rights, related to conservation policies that relate to the green print map, expanding upon the place type and preservation area program that already exists, thinking about the potential use of more growth boundaries possibly to ensure that places that are hoping to not get encroached upon with urban sprawl do not, and that municipalities possibly may get more contained. Then we went through a nice section where we described the integration with the green print plan. So we provide a summary of the green print plan and what its priority map produced related to lands that were of the highest priority for preservation and those lands that were of a little bit lesser priority, similar to that suitability study I showed you, but more focused on specific environments that were being mapped as part of the green print plan. That led to what we call the shades of green map, and we summarized those critical environments into 4 different shades of green. And so the lightest color would be the most developable, and so we would encourage the highest use of those, the highest density of those, the more mixing of uses in there, the more accommodation of diverse housing uses into those lighter areas. As you get more dark, it gets a little more, those lands get a little more sensitive, and we would suggest that those have the highest priority for conservation. Those 2 in between are certainly developable, but might benefit from using higher levels of restrictions depending upon the environmental condition. So we go through a little bit of description about how the shades of green interacts with existing zoning, how the shades of green interacts with place types, a brief discussion of the zoning that exists within the county from rural to urban, and then this page on the left takes those zones apart and says, based on the shade of green color, here are the most appropriate responses within each one of the zones. So it applies a connection between the shades of green map and this mapping of different environmental zones into a response that can occur within the zoning plan to make sure that there is, a compatibility between what's getting developed in that underlying environment, while still allowing for all the things that those zoning, those transect-based zones call for, right? So for instance, in some of the darker colored areas, it really talks about using low impact development principles and green building standards. Number 3 talks about using conservation and cluster-based development. Number 4 is no development. Number 1 is develop it per the development code, but really encourage the highest development use and density that the market and folks will allow in there to try to continue an effort to use less land for development. So that's the built environment section, and then we have a chapter that's about some focal areas within the county and strategies about integrating, thinking about multimodal place type in, particularly along 278, thinking long-term again, where this plan looks out to 2040. How can that corridor evolve to be more responsive to transit opportunities as the future unfolds? Integrating place types along those corridors, thinking about how trail networks work, and also getting down into a little higher level of detail about how current zoning and current land use interacts with some of these shades of green to show, to sort of provide guidance about what the appropriate development responses are, independent of what the current zoning is. This is the 170 corridor, strategies about interacting with Jasper County and Hardeeville along this edge, and the integration of place types, Beaufort and Port Royal. We also did the plan for Port Royal, so that plan interacts with this plan pretty nicely too. Ladies Island, St. Helena's Island, Sheldondale, etc. So that's the comp plan. Even splitting it into 2 documents, we managed to get that one to be 130 pages. So anyway, so that's the comp plan. I'll just briefly run through it looks like that one we had to change that one out. Let me go to the atlas. We're in the process of changing the action plan.
Left it on there so I can finish reading what they put up there.
Yeah, you'll have a chance to digest all of this yourselves by going to the website and looking at it. Oh, here's the action plan. So the action plan talks about the consistencies with state requirements, implementation steps, the link with the priority investment element that's required, how it coordinates with the CIP or any strategic plans that happen, how it coordinates within the document and other documents. And then, as I mentioned, we go and bring down each of the actions that were part of those themes. We still have to fill this out yet with you all or with the county, just to make sure we understand who's the responsible party, what we know, when we want this work to be initiated. But this part is a living matrix that can be used as plans for the year are being developed, and it can be referred back to as actions are considered. And then finally, I'm thumbing through this quickly. We have included the capital improvement plan in here as well, which I guess the public work folks have worked on, so that this, I can tell right now that we will have to work on the formatting of this particular page, but this has all the projects that are planned for to 2030 through the county. So that all that information is here as well. And then if I can get to the It looks like we have a bug already here. So it looks like the atlas is not up here, and I'm sorry for that because it's a beautiful document that has all of the background information related to housing and environment and culture and history and all those pieces. And I will work to get that up in these links. Actually, I can probably, here it is. I'll give it to you from my computer. How about that? Let me see. I got to share. Hang on. Here we go. All right, here's the atlas. And again, I'll thumb through this as well. Beautifully formatted document, an introduction about what its purpose is. It goes into a chapter about the demographics, the people, we call it people. Talks a little bit about growth, population snapshot, where people are living, how the demographics map spatially, social vulnerability, goes into natural resources. A lot of this information is, mirrors the green print plan in this natural resources section. Talks about challenges, maps, these things. We really wanted to bring a lot of mapping into this document because, a lot of this is spatial, right? It's not just concepts. And so we wanted to make sure that people are understanding where some of these things hit the ground. Cultural resources, history, okay, so this will be fun to take a look at too. It's really, again, what we're hoping to do with this document and have something that is useful beyond the comprehensive plan, that it can support other planning efforts and not have to be redone each time. So we talk about, the built forms that exist out there, existing land use and development patterns, zoning, okay, housing, transportation, public facilities, schools and libraries, recycling, emergency services. Okay, so that's the atlas. So again, we have this three document structure, and we feel very good about not only its technical, technically doing what a comprehensive plan is supposed to be doing in the state of South Carolina. We think it's an attractive document that people will enjoy reading and looking at. And we think we've brought a little bit of innovation in the organization here so that these three documents can work together as one piece, or they can be individually looked at depending upon what your particular use of one of those is. And the last thing I'd like to mention is that, we're still working on this, but, the question about how do these documents live, and we think that they live on a website like this, but that there's other documents that also can live on that website that are relevant to the comprehensive plan, such as the sea level rise plan, such as the green print plan, such as the long range transportation plan, housing studies, parks master plan, right? And so if you had a place where you could go where there was tiled covers of each one of these plans, it could be really helpful to show how each of these things are integrated with each other and how they support each other, and have kind of a one-stop shop for going and getting everything you need to know about Beaufort County. So with that, I can take some comments or take some questions if you'd like.
Yeah, Glenn, I don't know who's, hello?
Yep.
Glenn, this is Ed Pappas.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a lot of things wandering around in people's mind right now about this document, which looks to be pretty extensive. My guess is over 300 pages, a lot to digest. And brings up the question, what is the work plan, or what is the process by which we will get to a final approval and submission of this plan? I'm sure you've had some discussions with the planning department and perhaps thought out an initial proposal. So if you've got that in mind, either yourself or Rob, maybe you can just kind of lay out for us the process by which it will be reviewed by all those that need to review it within county government, as well as the boards, commissions, and public, most importantly.
Well, Rob's can help me on this. As soon as I have that one link fixed, it will be public. It's already public. The other two are already public, so people can start looking at that. As I understand it, there's a period of time for this review. And, we can't keep that open-ended. I think it's like 30 days. And so that Rob and his team can gather the comments, can organize the comments that need to be addressed and deliver those to us so that we can make those revisions so that the plan is then ready for delivery to council.
So I assume that that delivery, after the comments are mulled through by board members, by any of the public who wants to input, there'll be a subsequent review and approval by the Planning Commission, then on to the Natural Resources Committee, then to County Council. Is that the process, Rob?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to add to that,
go ahead.
I think for practical purposes, kind of would like to use it's probably too soon to consider action by the Planning Commission at the May meeting, because we're going to need time to review the document, get our comments together, in addition to gathering all the public comments that we receive. But it would be good to target the June Planning Commission meeting. So with that time frame, kind of finishing the heavy lifting in our review within the next month, and then using the remaining time of coordinating all the comments and getting them to design workshops so they have time to make the changes. It's kind of how I envision the timeline moving forward looking like.
Okay, so the period of remaining in April into May will be for holding one or more workshops that will, as a group, we can review the documents either most likely online, and I would imagine not all in one chunk, but in segments. What's your latest thinking regarding that?
Yeah, I think it would be what the Planning Commission is most comfortable with. If we wanted to have a series of, let's say, 2-hour afternoon meetings every week to go over the plan and divide up as we see most logical way to divide up review, that may work. Or if it is the wish, to maybe have a fewer number of longer sessions. But I definitely want to give the Planning Commission members enough time to review it and then to really sit down with staff and kind of go over questions and comments, and so we can start gathering whether we,
would these be public meetings, in that the public would also participate during this, or would there be separate meetings held for the public in either afternoon or early evening hours for the working public? I
didn't anticipate having separate public meetings. We're going to handle public input based on putting out a press release and offering the ability for the public to comment. and keep that open, as far as them dealing with staff and letting us know their comments.
So at the workshops then that you're talking about, these would be for the planning commissions primarily, planning commission members? Would there be
Primarily, but they'll need to be public meetings because if you have a
Right.
quorum.
Right.
But the idea is that it's primarily the planning commission rolling up its sleeves and going through the document.
Okay. I'd like to get some input from the commission members as to what your thoughts are on how many of these meetings we would tolerate. And without looking at the document, it's hard to tell. I just can see that it's a lengthy document. It's got a lot of parts, and it's not going to be easy to understand the first or second time through. Hopefully, we'll catch on quickly. But what's your sense? Anybody would like to offer input on the sense of meetings, the length and number?
Ed, this is Cecily. Can you hear me? Am I in the game here?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, great. So Ed, and thank you, Rob, and thank you, Glenn. I think it's very important to segment or break up this material, because even if I, an interested party, were to see a 300-page document, probably wouldn't download onto my computer. It has to be segmented. We have to have 5 public meetings, right? And I do believe that's important. And I also think that maybe it's incumbent upon planning staff to produce some drafts that go to, one draft document to each of the public libraries in Beaufort County. So it's not one press release. It's saying this is a very important thing, and it might be 5 press releases. Like, remember, this is what we're doing. Remember, this is the public meeting. So, Ed, in short, I think it's a huge document. I think it's a very important document. I myself have questions about it. I would like to see the most public input possible. Of course, you can put a bookend on that, 6 weeks, whatever you want, Rob and Glenn. But I would advocate for more public education and public opportunity rather than less. That's
Yeah.
my comment.
I most certainly agree with that. Other input?
Ed, this is Frank Ducey. I would really like a hard copy of the document so I can go through and make my notes on that hard copy rather than having to print 300 pages on my in-home printer.
Well, it will be printable. In case anybody didn't understand that, it is printable from the website.
I know, but that's 300 pages we have to print up. I don't want to use 300 pages.
And that's something that I'd like to, gather from this meeting is how many of you would rather work from a hard copy, and then we can go ahead and print those in our office and find a way to distribute them to y'all. We certainly want to make this as easy on you as possible and what you're most comfortable with using to edit.
I can't see everybody. I can't see everybody on the screen, but why don't you just voice if you're interested in getting a printed copy?
Yes,
Cecil?
Sure, I am. Yep.
yes.
I definitely would like one.
That's
And
three.
Randolph also.
Diana would
4.
like one.
We got you. 4. I would like 1. That's 5.
And Diane can send out notice to everyone that's not here. And then they'll know.
I'd like 1 too, please.
That's 6.
I have a feeling that it's unanimous.
Yeah, I think.
Make one for
I would-
everybody.
Yeah, I think a printed copy for all the commissioners would be appropriate. That would be 9 copies.
But Ed, let me just successfully again reiterate, I really think it's important that the press coming from the county ought to be that these copies are going out so that somebody doesn't need to call me in my St. Helena neighborhood, like, can I borrow the copy? No, a draft, labeled draft, is at the St. Helena Library. I mean, I think these drafts are in paper copy are very good for us, but I think it's incumbent upon us to insist that, I don't know, 5, I'm making up a number here, be available for review at county library branches.
Rob, is that doable? I would suggest we try to honor that if we can.
Yes, and there are 5 libraries, so that's a good number.
Now, yeah,
So-
and it'll also be online,
Of
but
course.
having the 5 printed copies would be available. I like the suggestion.
Okay.
Other comments?
This is Randolph.
Go ahead, Randolph.
Yeah, I've got, it's not just on that because I believe everything Cicely and said and what we agreed to there. I think the library is great. Cicely, thank you. I just have some comments and not so many questions if you'll bear with me. First of all, Mr. Walters, great document. I think as a whole, I sincerely felt that it's a plan like you intended it to be. It doesn't need to start over in the next 10 years or 20 years. It can be amended and adjusted and built from. And I look forward to checking things like your economy and your traffic and your public spaces, et cetera, on and on and on. You lay it all out there. A couple other things is most every municipality in the county has their own comprehensive plan. I'm looking at one now in Bluffton, and I'm wondering if there was some interchange between the municipalities and the county plan, so that we don't cross. I think you know what I'm trying to say here, but so that they all get better because of what's going on in other areas besides just the county proper. So that's a comment that I have. If only other counties could find the funds to do the same thing, I would love to see this county surrounding us having the same kind of format and plan. I love the 3 comprehensive plan, the action plan, and the atlas. Because when someone sees or hears a comprehensive plan, what's that? Oh, a bunch of words. Or, what does it really do? But I do believe that you have brought this to life, and pardon me for being a little bit elongated here.
It's quite all right. It's
You'll get I'll get another shot at you before it's over.
we rarely get a pat on the back, so it's well appreciated. Thank you.
Well, it's great work, and I don't care what state or what municipality. I was wondering why you singled out St. Helena when there's so many other places. I'm just going to name Fusky and what have you. Ladies Island, they could be also singled out. For what purpose you singled out St. Helena? That was just a comment. It's so very comprehensive, and I love that you broke it down, and you're making it user friendly from that standpoint. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to y'all getting into it. Those of you that have been working with the previous comprehensive plan, or we'll find some familiarity, so it won't be like you're just starting from scratch and going, what's a comprehensive plan, right? So I hope that it's all understandable. We've written and rewritten this thing together with Rob and his crew several times, but that doesn't mean that there won't be words or 2 in there that we didn't get right. We're prepared for that, but like I said, we followed the statute on what it needed to cover. We conducted the community processes as best as we could, given the situation that we were dealt with here. We got the plan done really in 13 months, which is actually pretty good, especially when you think about we threw in the green print plan process in there as well. So we're pretty stoked about it. It felt good to tell Rob that we have this up on the website live, and that people can start taking a look at it.
Yeah. Could you address that question I had about coordination, or maybe Rob's more important for that, with other municipalities that
Yeah.
that may help this plan be better and theirs as well?
Rob?
Yeah, well, I'll say off the bat, we really tried to work with the municipalities to the point of originally our plan was to do this as one contract. And unfortunately, that didn't quite work out the way we wanted to. We did work in conjunction with the town of Port Royal. So we have very, similar planning process with them with the same consultant. We had a really good meeting, and this is with Jasper County and Hardyville, where we talked about the future of the 170 corridor. So there was definitely some coordination with the town, and one of the, I would say, the most crucial areas of the county where there's a lot of unknowns about the future of development and a lot of concern about growth. And then also, as part of this review process, we will be sending emails directly to the planning directors of each of the municipalities and asking for their comment and input. So we'll definitely be including them in this review process as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have a question of you, Glenn. Having done this, I'm sure many times in this kind of a development of a comprehensive plan, understanding the size of this plan and the segments of this plan, are there any, do you have any suggestions for pieces that we can separate out and begin to build toward rather than try to take it all in one chunk? I mean, is there a logical process for this?
I think so. I personally, if it was me, well, it is me. I would start with the 2040 comprehensive plan document. That is what is housing the vision. That is what is housing the point of view of the plan. That is what is housing the themes and the goals and strategies and an articulation of the actions. The action plan playbook is really something that is used by staff pretty much, right? It's got its own little purpose. And I don't know if that necessarily, that's pulling straight from the comprehensive plan. So it probably doesn't need a whole lot of time put to it, except for what Rob and I need to do to make it useful and clear and good. The atlas, that should be pretty straightforward. That's just pulling statistical data. That's pulling mapping that, coming straight from GIS. That's pulling from studies and plans and writing that has occurred up to this point. And so I think it's super interesting, and I love the way it's formatted, but I don't know if there's a whole lot to argue with in it. So I might keep your focus on the comprehensive plan and within those themes, just to really make sure that the strategies that are being put forth, the actions that are being put forth within each of those themes, really capture what needs to be done in order to realize the vision.
Okay. So if we were going to put that concentration into the comp document, can this be done in one 2-hour session? Or what would you think would be a reasonable approach for folks who are taking a first look at this?
I mean, I certainly could, because, I'm not a wordsmither. I would really counsel you all, and I know it's going to be tough for a lot of you all, depending upon your background, to we would love the review to be focused on the content. We would love the review to be focused on, does this capture who we are and where we want to go based on what we've heard, and are the strategies that are articulated in here appropriate for us? I'm sure that you all can offer up word choices that could be better. It's not that we will discard those. I mean, we certainly would learn from that, but I think that to review it as a writing editor versus reviewing it as a planning commissioner, I think are two different things. And I would love it if you guys focused on this as a planning commissioner and really thought about the vision for Beaufort County first and foremost in your review. So from that standpoint, I think it can be, the review can be relatively, intuitive and relatively quick. But again, I deal with these things quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I'll leave that with y'all.
Rob? Rob?
Oh, I'm still here.
Okay. Any of your comments regarding the number and length of the workshop?
I think it really comes down to, kind of what Glenn said, how we approach it. I've sat through sessions like this where we get barely through a chapter in one meeting because it just takes a long time for everyone to, write their comments, and sometimes they'll get, range from everything from whether we should have Oxford commas or, some things more substantive. And so I think, if we can kind of maybe agree to each have our comments in advance of meetings, we could probably work through quicker and, keeping our comments kind of up at, at the higher level versus, and then we could probably, as staff, give one final pass in terms of typos or grammar, things like that.
And we'll do that. We're going to do another pass internally as well for the QM piece. So, I mean, again, it's not that we don't want that. It's just, I think that's would take a long time for each of you all. And then there is a ton of words in there. So just, if possible, just, let's keep it at a higher level. And then what we would need is to, have an arbitration, if you will, on those comments. We can't, chase down every single comment we get, obviously, because that comment might contradict somebody else's comment. So it'll have to go through a funnel, and we need to be given direction on these are the ones that we need to change because it makes complete sense to us why these changes need to be made.
Okay.
Yeah, and our departments will ultimately be that funnel. I think at some point the Planning Commission, we may need to work with y'all on when we receive public comments and we have a difficult time trying to figure out whether we need to make changes or not. But ultimately, what we would like to pass on to Design Workshop is one set of comments that they can, or one set of suggested edits that they could take and incorporate so that they're not overwhelmed with all these edits. I think Glenn would appreciate that.
Oh gosh, yeah, this is the scary part. But we've cycled it quite a bit between us and the planning department. So we're hopeful that it's understandable anyway. Our fingers are crossed on that.
Well, let me just say, I think based on my review of the Greenprint plan, and it's, I think how much in depth it went on the issues of resiliency, equity in place, that I thought was an outstanding document. And for the first review of this, I mirror the comments of Randolph that this looks to be just an outstanding document, much different, much improved over the comprehensive plan of past that we've reviewed. I look forward to reading it in a little more detail. I'm looking to address only content. I don't, I'll leave the Oxford Dictionary folks to interpret any needs there. But as you probably can tell, I'm trying to press forward as to scheduling the reviews that are going to be. And so we've got the tentative deadline that Rob has set for a final review by the commission would be at the June PC meeting, which is the first week in June. So we've got roughly 7 weeks between now and then to do other reviews, comments, public sharing, digesting, so on and so forth. I would imagine you're going to need a period of time to do your review of our review. And so we're probably the next month or so is when we should have any scheduled meetings. Rob, I'm talking to you on this, for the Planning Commission to work in a workshop session. Afternoon sessions are fine with me. I think preference over evening when the day is long and you don't have your focus totally in place. So, afternoon sessions, if you think we can bite off with what are 5 chapters, 120 pages, 5 chapters, something like that.
Yeah.
If you think we can divide that we can try to go and see how far we can go in the first session, and based on that, schedule a second session if necessary, or a third session. But I don't want to, let's just schedule the first one and see what we get to, recognizing that we're going to focus on that, on the comprehensive document.
Cool. Yeah, and I think in terms of the printing, this is just my opinion. I probably would just print the comprehensive plan piece and distribute it to you all, just so, because otherwise you're going to get a ginormous bit of paper there. And like I said, I think the looking forward parts is the parts that I would think are the most critical to get your input on, not what has happened in the past parts, which is really what the Atlas is all about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When can we have those printed copies for the commissioners? Do you have any thinking on that?
I think logistically, we'd probably be looking at Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
Unless we really, and in my thought, do we want to give until I'm just offering a date, the 20th of April, give you about 10 days to have the first meeting and be prepared to make comments on the first 5 chapters. Would that be fair?
That sounds okay to me. How does anybody else want to input or suggest something different?
Okay to me, Cecily.
Okay. Not hearing any objections, let's target that. We'll set up something for the 20th for a special workshop involving the commissioners and any public who want to attend. In the meantime, there will be copies printed up by this Thursday and Friday and available, as well as copies in the libraries and the press release. And can you share the link with us at this point so we can just go on and even to...
I think we were working on it behind the scenes. It all should let me just do it again while I'm sitting here. So yeah, that one came up.
And we'll send out an email to everyone also.
Okay. Yeah, we
missed it at this meeting.
What is the website, Glenn? I can't.
I'm sorry. It's envisionbeaufortcounty.com. Give me an hour. I got to make sure that this is all working. It's still. Apparently, they went in and made it work, and now it's not working again. So we'll get it squared away. Do you want me to send you an email when it's What, Adeline?
Oh, if you refresh that web page, they should be working.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the sooner we can get it, for us who are just dying to pour into it.
Yeah. Well, let me just, while we're sitting here, I'm going to verify. Clicking on the Atlas. Boom, there's the Atlas. Okay, we're in good shape. We are live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question. I have a logistical question. How would most of you prefer to receive your hard copies?
I can pick mine up.
I can pick mine up, Cecily.
Okay.
I'll pick mine up, Rob. Thank you.
I'll get mine picked up. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just, when the copies are ready, we'll just send out an email to the planning commissioners and just, we'll make sure that both front desks and our office are aware. The county building is open to the public, so we'll provide directions on how to get to our office.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have a couple more comments and a couple of questions, if I can.
Sure.
Okay. Do we consider at this point, even though it's not a complete document, but it's a wonderful document, to go ahead and get a copy to Natural Resources and Council so they can begin their review of the document and not get it 2 months from now? Question one, I guess that one has to answer. And this one's to Mr. Waters. I don't know if it's there, but is there such a thing where you have like a list of major changes, major points, major motions for us to review that are your top 20 or top 10 in the different categories? And when it comes to what Ed said about the process, I'm 100% for what he said. And 2 months should be enough. And Rob, how you working out the public, the more the merrier.
Yep.
So, okay.
I like your idea. I like the thought of the what's Glenn's top 10 or 15 must-haves or must be reviewed that we should pay special attention to.
I heard that groan.
No. I'm thinking. That's my thinking groan. I will work with Rob on that. It's since you guys aren't as familiar with the document as we are. I could see where that question would come from. And we can give you better direction. Let me get with Rob and sort of sort that out. I think it's within the themes, to be honest. And once you get the document, you'll see the themes, those 5 themes. That's where the rubbers meet in the road. It's within those sections.
Yeah, and if I might add, I think it's also good for the public because the average public may spend an hour, 2 hours on the entire document, whereas if they had something they can go to that is most important for them to be aware of, I think that might be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as I think about that, there are different segments of the public. If you're talking about building, development, construction industry, might have one particular interest. If you're talking about the environmental community, another set of directed interests, etc.
Exactly.
There'll be different stakeholder interest groups. Anyway, I think it's a great idea. It's a great suggestion. Other suggestions?
And I just have a problem with that April 20th. I will not be around until the end of that week. So I will be missing that April 20th meeting.
Well, we know that you will give us your inputs, for sure.
I will probably send you emails.
Does anybody else have a problem with that date? I mean, if we were picking a date and nobody can make it, then it's not good. On the surface, is everybody that's on this call able to attend that meeting or not?
Yeah, I'll make it happen. Yeah. And do we get the information out to the other commissioners as well?
Yep.
And what it's about?
Offline performance, open house, and open house, private party, grand opening.
Was that you, Jimmy?
Yes, I'm good with the 20th.
Okay. Who was talking about parties? Okay, so I'm not hearing anyone else having a problem with that date at this point. So we'll go with that, and if you do run into a problem, let us know, and we'll figure out something else. Okay, we do need a quorum to discuss it in a meaningful way. So I'd appreciate your attention to that date, and as we need, we'll set up a subsequent date to everybody's mutual interest. Now,
one other quick comment I've got.
Yeah,
does the county broadcasting staff have the ability for commissioners who weren't here to see just the presentation. Because I think it was excellent and it's worth seeing if they didn't see it.
You mean we'll put this on TV, on the
No,
broadcast channel?
where they can have a link where they can go and watch Mr. Walter's presentation that he made on, the entire document and what it entails.
Well, that should be on the county website channel, TV.
Okay.
I don't know when, how quickly it'll get there. What is the usual time for these things to go on the county channel? Rob?
It usually takes about a day or two.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay. We still have a public attendee at this meeting, I believe. I can't see whether or not he's, oh, yep, I see that he's still plugged in. Tony, would you like to make any comments? Tony Christatello, are you still with us? Well, I don't hear anything.
Tony, you're muted. If you could unmute yourself. There we go.
All right. Yes, I'm fine with this conversation. Thank you very much for allowing me to sit in as a citizen. My only comment is this, that the element here involved is the priority investment element, and that's my main concern. The document that I am concerned about is the document that deals with Bendon Plantation, and there is a conservation easement that we paid $2.5 million for, with the idea that we would have an environmental education center there. It is our plan. That's the words of the county council. They're not a dream. It's not a statement of desire. It's a statement of fact. The county council's plan is to build an environmental education center at Bendon. So I don't want to see this document miss the fact that Bendon Plantation has been in existence for over 300 years, and it needs to be not forgotten that it is, in fact, the county council's plan to build an environmental education center, i.e. a botanical garden. It's a good idea, it's a dream, but it's a worthy dream that we should pursue. And so it needs to be adopted in the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other closing comments?
Hey, this is Cecily. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
I'd like to follow up on what Randolph said, which is that although I agree with him and the presentation was
Which means that the motor in the second.
Can you hear me okay? Maybe I will need to
Can you mute, Tony?
Update us with FEMA maps. That is, Beaufort City and Port Royal, I think, have updated their FEMA maps. So in the three items, resilience particularly, I really think we need to, as we proceed here, to have more understanding of how the new FEMA maps are impacting resilience and what our responsibility is and what the county's responsibility is. So I'd like to throw that out there, and maybe it's also to Mr. Waters. I don't know, or to Rob, but it hasn't been mentioned, and I'd really like to have it mentioned.
Okay.
So that's FEMA. So for example, following up on Randolph, in our March minutes, the green print plan was a crosswalk to the comp plan. So I'm not sure why it's not including, like, how does it interact with the FEMA map? So that's the flood zone, et cetera. So that's a question. And okay.
Well, Ms. McMillan, I know we briefly just went through those documents. Once you look at the comprehensive plan, you will see quite a bit in there about resilience and about the crosswalk from the green print plan into the comprehensive plan, and a focus on orienting development out of those flood-prone areas. And that'll work. There's also a reference and a relationship between what we're describing in the comp plan and what the county is also doing within its sea level rise task force, and the policies that are coming out of that. So the flood mapping will change over time, that's for sure, and the comp plan, the green print plan, and the sea level rise task force plan, accommodate those changes.
I guess what I'm saying is that maybe I missed the memo, but I have not seen that online or in the documents that you provided so far. So where can I find them?
Seen what? What do you?
I have not seen any intersection of the changes in what FEMA has very recently, in the last couple of weeks, in the new FEMA documents about flood level rise. I haven't seen that integrated into maps, particularly in the resilience section of your plan. Maybe I've missed it. Educate me, but I don't.
Is that a question for the workshop?
For FEMA.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
I'm personally involved in a project on the ocean, and as of March 23rd, the floodplain there dropped a foot.
Right.
And I think what Cicely is the new plan incorporate the new FEMA floodplain, which would change the flood maps and what have you have, and to make sure that you're aware of if it's not, you're working on old maps.
That's right, Randolph. I mean, I think the kind of surprise, I suppose, is that there were more properties that were under less risk, if you see what I mean. And the new FEMA maps make a difference. And I think that ought to be reflected in the work that we are supporting going forward.
I will say that there is a recommendation that deals directly with that issue, because it is a concern of staff that fewer areas are within the floodplain. Correct. And as a result, base flood elevation is lower, and we could be seeing new buildings coming in at a lower elevation than they have been for the last 40 years. So that is addressed in the plan. And so there's a recommendation.
In our workshop.
Yes.
Super. The last thing is, I mean, I don't mean to be, a super Oxford comma person here, although I am a writer. But Mr. Waters, you've talked a lot about the date of 2040. Unless I'm mishearing you, I thought this was a 10-year project that we should be kind of finishing this in 2021 or projecting to 2030. Am I missing something here? Because 2040 seems like a long time to get people interested. 2025 maybe is more compelling. Am I missing, our mandate here from the state?
I could speak to that real quick. We have a planning horizon. We're trying to look forward over the next 20 years and anticipate growth, but the actions that are in the plan are things that we are meant to be addressed within the next 10 years. So it's looking forward, but we're trying to make very concrete recommendations that we could tackle within a 10-year time frame.
But Rob, you're not compelled by state or federal mandate to do it within 10 years? Because I always thought that's why, and if Tony is still on, he could say, I thought the whole deal was that we re-up the comprehensive plan for the county every 10 years, and that was a state mandated,
It is.
I don't know, that the state impelled that on counties. Am I wrong here?
What the state requires, it requires every 5 years that we review the plan and every 10 years make revisions.
Correct.
But when we're looking forward, we could still look forward 20 years and understand in any planning process that second 10 years is usually pretty fluid because a lot of things can change, but you're still trying to take a long view and then but make your actions more within the a shorter time frame. So that's kind of, we're looking out 20 years. We are proposing actions over the next 10 years.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, so if I had to weigh in here, and I don't mean to, bogus the time here, but
Cecily, shut up.
I think it's quite important that we focus on the 10 years, because people do not want to hear about 2040. They want to hear about, this is the planning process, 20 years. So I'm talking about, let us say, more than a public relations effort. This is what I've been involved with planning in Beaufort County. It's always been this 5-year and 10-year review. My own opinion, I would urge us not to talk about 2040, which I've heard 3 times tonight. My own opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Cecily. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to excuse, I guess, Glenn at this point. I really don't have anything else for the agenda. The only thing I would draw your attention to is that a month or so back, Diane McMaster sent out a proposed program for the National Planning Conference for 2021. And in that, I laid out a program, a 3-day program from May 5th through 7th on 75 different, as I can count them here, topics to be discussed all around planning. And a lot of the topics, as I scan through them, are relevant to some of the points that were discussed in the comprehensive plan this evening. We've got 3 people I know that have signed up for that 3-day conference. If you're interested, Diane has all of the information for registering. I believe that the county was going to subsidize commissioners to attend that. So it is a virtual conference. And so I would encourage you, if you are interested in increasing your knowledge and understanding of best practices or recommendations that come from the National Planning Conference, to attend that session. That being said, I don't have any other thing to offer this evening. Would anybody have any other comments they'd like to make? Items to be discussed? Okay, that being the case, then I declare this meeting adjourned.